Okay, so we're here in the Mary Valley, the beautiful Mary Valley. You can see it behind us, and we're at Colin Johnson's property. And Colin is one of my favourite clients. We often have field days out here. And welcome, Colin.
Thank you very much, Graeme.
Thank
you very much. Yeah.
We've come out to do some of our how to do it videos out at the farm here today. But Colin's very kindly agreed to a little bit of an interview. So tell us about how you got on this journey, this nutrition farming journey. You even wearing one of our shirts. How cool!
Oh, I know. You like that? I feel part of the family.
He's a nutrition farmer, all right?
Well and truly. Yeah, well and truly by this stage. Well, Kelly and I, we bought the farm now going back, see, about 9.5, just over 9.5, nearly 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
And we first brought the farm to have in the background there and thinking that, look, one day we'll end up at the farm. And,
just as a lifestyle company.
As a lifestyle change, yeah. And anyway, cut a long story short, we were living down on beachfront down the Sunshine Coast there, and kids had grown up, moved out of house, and we had the big house, and we were both going in different directions to work every day. And at that stage, we had the farm in the background, and we were leasing out the farm at the stage. And anyway, we came home from a long day, both from a long day of work one day, and we looked at each other and we thought, you know what? I reckon the time is now. So we're probably about 10 years earlier than what we expected that we would do it, of course. But we took a leap of faith and both resigned from our jobs. Kelly she'd done sports science and was doing physio work. And I was actually a operations manager with Toyota after doing a business degree. And so with there, we made the change and we took a dive into the farm and
at what point did you actually come along and do the 5-day course?
Well, we actually started out the farming for the first 6 months ourselves, and there was quite an eventful 6 months. We had a mini tornado hit the farm. At the same time, I had a motorcycle accident on the farm and separated my lower part of my left leg, and it was quite eventful. And we thought to ourselves that we really need to get some guidance on this farming side of things. But our orchard was a complete utter mess after the mini tornado had come through, and
it took all the leaves off.
It took every leaf off every tree. It looked like the orchard was bleeding virtually, because there was sap coming out of all the branches, not only the trunks but all the branches, for where they're taking the leaves off.
There was a huge hailstorm that travelled through this region, just in one thing only. Out everyone that
there was about a 400 metre wide, and you could see his path that comes straight up through the back here and straight over through the neighbouring farms and down over through Longflat and the other parts of the Mary Valley. It was incredible. And but to cut that long story short, from there we looked on websites and we looked up nutrition, Nutritech, and saw that Graeme was doing the 5-day certificate course, and we did a lot of research actually, Graeme. I remember seeing a TED talk and Humour Saves the World. And I started listening to a few things, and I said, Kelly, this is our man. It was a very aligned, it was very aligned. We were very passionate about the organic farming journey and the biological inputs into the farm, and from our small amounts of research that we've done ourselves, and not having that knowledge at that stage, and certainly not the experience. And the rest is history. We did the 5-day course with Graeme, which was just an absolute wealth of knowledge. We turned ourselves from what I would say, I wouldn't call it farmers, but we had that confidence at the end of it, saying, you know what, let's get in now, let's build this farm, and with the support of the agronomy, and feeling like I was with like a family with all the people and all the staff through at Nutritech there. Together, I would say, we rebuilt the farm back from that horrible experience that we'd had with the mini tornado, to the stage now that if I was to skip way forward in our journey, we're now a commercial farming enterprise in the fact that we have 3 people employed on the farm part time. We commercially grow ginger, turmeric, and macadamias. We have a beautiful little farm cabin up the top of our property, which is also part of our diversifying and income streams into the property itself. And we would do better financially now, and certainly a lot more at heart. Doing what we do on a day-to-day basis. That's all through beginning with doing the 5-day certificate course, and with the help and support that's been followed up from Graeme and all the staff there at Nutritech.
It's interesting because
Yeah.
we've got lots of stories of people who
Yeah.
really not farmers at all
Yeah.
have done the course and with a bit of help
Yes.
are actually some of our best farmers because you don't have any prior conceptions. You don't say, well, you can't do this because you don't know what you can do. And there's some really good success stories, and you're one of them.
Yep.
So one of the things that we've noted, and it's a change that's happening on all fronts is across the globe really is
Yes.
this move away from the concept of getting bigger and getting out
Yes.
to this concept of diversify or get out. And in your instance,
Right.
is a great example on a smaller scale of
Yes.
diversification. How many you've got? What, 7 enterprises on the farm?
We've actually we're doing horse adjustment there at one stage, and so that was one of our enterprises as such. Then we've also got our farm stay cabin, which is might I say solidly booked every weekend. We're booked about probably nearly 2 months in advance at the moment.
Farm stays is such a good thing.
Oh, it's a beautiful way of sharing what we do on the farm as well. You know, Kelly and I are very, very passionate with our farming and what we do and what we put into our soils on the farm, and we share that passion with people when they come to stay. I think if you were to read the reviews, or if anyone is to look up, Longhorn Cabin, they'll see that on Airbnb. It's how much we pride ourselves, and everyone that comes to stay here, we pretty much grow everything we eat now these days. So everything that's in season ends up in hampers, for people on their arrival. So it gives a real feel of what it's like to live in an off-grid. And
it's completely off grid. We're at the cabin. We're sitting up at the
Yeah.
cabin. That's the view from the back of the cabin. And it's a beautiful rustic little cabin.
Yeah.
Completely off grid. Also,
100% off grid.
Yeah, wonderful.
It's even as much as we run composting toilets as well, so that all that compost that we produce eventually, it all goes back into our compost piles that we make on the farm here itself, and ends up back into the gardens and out in the fields or anywhere it needs compost into our growing process, of course.
So one of the strategies that you've embraced, you've really gone down that path on quite a scale, is the concept of multi-species cover crops. Tell us
Absolutely.
about your experience and what you've seen with that.
Wow.
The benefits
Hey.
you've seen.
Wow, what a difference. Yeah, I remember, I didn't know too much about cover crops until I did that 5-day certificate course, Graeme.
Yeah.
And that, from when we talked about cover cropping in that course itself, I went down and I did a lot of research myself on top of that to learn as much as I could. And then obviously immediately putting that into practice. And, the years have gone past now, but, we've raised our organic matter in the soils. I could look at our turmeric fields at the front there, and our soil tests will show on there. We started off at around about 7% organic matter,
Which is a pretty good start.
which is a great
That's a
start,
nice
which
soil
is
there.
fantastic. Very blessed to have that. And but now I can honestly brag that we're up at 10%. I think it's at 10 point something percent
Yeah,
on
that's
organic matter in that soil. And that's just from a repetitive cover cropping. It's I can also proudly say it's normally when they say talk about resting your soils for years on end. Well, I've got this ongoing scientific experiment at the moment, because I've been farming in these fields down there with the turmeric now for I'm going to say it's 5 into 6 years now, and I've basically been planting into the same soil 12 month with only a 12-month break in between. But what I do in between that break, I put 3 lots of cover cropping in.
3 lots each time.
3 lots of cover cropping, and I just continually once it gets to stage just before the flowering, as such, if I'm not going to be using the sunflowers, that's another story.
Yeah.
I'll turn that cover crop in, and then it's ready for planting.
Yeah, because for those that are
Yeah.
not familiar with this, and many of our listeners or whatever won't be familiar with ginger and turmeric and so forth, but
Yes.
those crops are sort of like potatoes in that
Yep.
normally it's a 5-year cycle.
Yes.
You never go ginger on ginger on ginger. We pulled a big ginger out on the farm when we were doing some of these how to do it videos yesterday
Yes.
on my farm.
Yes.
Great big one, 4.5 kilos.
Wow.
One plant. And that's
unreal.
4 years in the same spot.
Unreal.
So that's just the same thing. Cover crop,
Yeah.
compost, lots of organic matter going back in.
That's it. Yep. Yep.
And you can do it, and there's no disease. There's a lot of disease in this region because we've had too much
Absolutely.
water this year.
Very much so. Yeah.
We've been disease free, so it
Yep.
certainly can. It sort of rewrites the rules, really.
It is,
Yeah.
And look, as I say, I still call it a scientific experiment because there's evidence that says otherwise out there, but I still haven't found it. I haven't experienced it, I should say.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep on doing it.
Yeah,
And,
I'm going to keep doing
I'm going
it
to
too.
keep on doing it and keep on cover cropping. And not only am I seeing the improvements in the organic matter, which gives me a better, more favourable soil and less reliant.
Well, it's wonderful when we come
Yeah.
out for the field day and we go down to, say, that little cover crop block in the front.
It's like a sponge, isn't it?
It's like a sponge.
It's like a
Everyone's
sponge.
just, people can't believe it,
Yeah.
because it's literally a sponge. It's
That's-
beautiful soil.
Yeah. Yep.
We'll do we'll demonstrate the microbiome into down there
Yep.
a little later and show people.
That's another thing too, with the organic matter getting, more and improving all the time, I find myself watering it less. I know we're getting more rains these days, but honestly,
Yeah,
it
it holds
it
moisture.
holds the moisture better in the ground. I could dig down there and even if I haven't watered it for a while, you can still feel, and you can feel that in the sponginess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've been doing on the sort of macadamia, well, on the whole farm, you've
Yes.
been doing a concept of soil testing, leaf testing,
Yes.
mineral balancing where required, some compost and
Yes. Yep.
humates and all of the sort of standard things. What sort of things have you noted have been of particular value?
Oh, look, it's the microbes behind the minerals.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember you saying that in the ground. It's always stuck in my head. So it's BAM. BAM is one of my favourites.
Yeah,
whenever I put a mineral out there, it's always got to have.
We
BAM.
do on the farms as well.
It's always got BAM in the mix there, and then of course if it's boron or urea, it's going to have the humic acid.
Yeah.
And then everything else there will have the fulvic acid with it as such. But I never put a mineral out there without either without the biology or without the BAM there.
It's a very good concept.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's
Yep.
great. And how have you found it from the perspective of, the health of the trees, say in the macadamia trees, for example? in
Yes.
this orchard. I mean, have you had problems with disease or?
No, look, it's for where the orchard goes. I've had no problem with at the beginning parts of the orchard. I remember there was lots of yellow stripping here and there down through the trees, but it was very deficient.
Yeah.
At one stage, I even thought there was phytophthora
Yeah.
there as such. But now, geez, there's such a beautiful even green across the orchard there.
It's looking healthy.
It's looking very healthy.
But
Yeah.
you're looking at your neighbours compared to yours.
Absolutely, you can certainly see the difference. Yeah.
Surprising he hasn't looked over the fence and asked some questions.
Well, he's actually, I think he's actually rung your. Yes.
good.
He's already made contact, actually.
So on this cropping, are you using any chemicals at all, or you're sort of chemical free?
We're chemical free.
Good.
Yeah,
Well
yep,
done.
yep.
No
It's-
herbicides?
Look, I do get a little bit of insect damage. My first pickup of the season, it took me quite a while to get through.
Yeah.
But look, I can pride myself with the Department of Agriculture. They did a test on all the 289 farms that are registered with them within this region, and I can proudly say that we're in the top 10% with quality.
That's good.
Yeah, in the top 10%.
Yeah.
So, on their readouts. So I was pretty proud of that. Especially that we're doing it chemical free in that.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's not many chemicals.
No. I mean, and how I get around it with underneath the trees there, so I don't get too much. They don't get too bushy as such. And very thankful for the season where we've had lots of rain. I mow and throw, and I fill it with as much mulch as I can. So when it comes to clean out time in our orchard around, everyone knows in this region here, it's around that sort of late December, January period that we're cleaning out underneath the trees, so we can get nice and even there for our finger wheels to come across the top. I get under there and mow it and
So you just throw everything out there so you can drop the nuts onto that spot.
exactly.
But so
And there what it's done, it's snubbed out it's snubbed out a lot of the growth of any weeds or any bits and pieces that are under the trees.
So the mulch maintains the clear
Correct.
trees. That's
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Because I mean that's the classic
Yeah.
macadamia story, is that you got a dead zone under the trees where they have it.
And look, the typical process of macadamia farming is, sadly but true, it is herbiciding underneath the trees, which, as we all know, that does have a detrimental effect on the biology, and it does take time to come back.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate enough been able to maintain that biology under the trees, and we've done so by smothering
Mulching
it
back under
with as much mulch as we can. But our process is, I do understand with a lot of bigger orchards where you've got the big mower decks on the back there. the idea is just, if you are using those as such, get it where you got to throw so you can get that grass and get it in underneath the trees as much as you can to snuff it out. Yeah. And, but you've got to keep the process going. We're fortunate enough that we do harvest through the winter times there. So it's good to get that, good to get as much or get everything up and finished before the spring comes. So it doesn't start really grassing itself underneath there, and get that mulch back in under there and protect underneath the trees. And look, the more mature the trees get, the more shaded it gets under there, the easier that process will get for people if they're starting out with new plant orchards.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're not actually certified organic, are you? Just growing nutrition farming.
Correct.
But do you find, I know you've got some quite good prices for your turmeric this last year.
Yes.
So you're still getting some rewards for how you're farming, basically.
Absolutely. I make it very clear with the stickers on the box that we're organically farming. It's not organic certified as such. And yes, we do end up getting an extra $1 or $2 on our produce, which is great. Yeah. And look, fortunate enough with our macadamias as well, that we've always been fortunate enough that we've reached into the bonus dollars of those with the quality that we've come through. It does take a little bit more picking in that first pickup, so a little bit more handling there. But we've managed to be able to keep it up in those dollar values as well.
From a human health perspective, I often sort of wax lyrical about this wondrous plant that we made illegal, and so the multiple uses of. I've thought about it on my farm. If I put a little cottage, I'll do it out of hempcrete sort of thing, because there's so many uses, and hempcrete is one of them. It can't burn, and it's more insulating than mud brick and straw bale and so forth. But the medicinal thing is, there's those 82 bioactives, and there's 82 receptors on the human cell, and there's nothing. It's like a key to a lock. And you've had some personal experience. You had the horrific bike accident where you were supposedly not walking again.
Yes.
So tell us about your little journey from that perspective.
Oh, most definitely. That was a horrible accident. I actually separated the lower part of my leg here from this knee. And so I tore my kneecap off and put my bone out the side. There's every tendon and every ligament, severed the muscle.
This dog, our little dog, Jimmy, saved your life, did he?
No, that was my other dog, Stan, which is sadly he's said goodbye to us now. But yeah, it was Stan.
Oh, Stan, who?
Yeah, I was way down the back part of the orchard here, and once I'd come off and I'd woken up because I'd knocked myself out when I come off the bike. I realised, look, at my foot was facing up towards me. It was a horrible situation.
There's a very strong risk of bleeding out at that point.
There was, yeah. So I did have a shirt on. I ripped my shirt off and used it as a tourniquet on my leg. But I didn't know at that stage how bad or what. All I knew there was a lot of blood, and I had to somewhat try and get some help. So I obviously couldn't walk, but I was screaming out down there and for help as such, and because I was laying on the ground there, and no one was coming. Then each time I called out, I kept on passing out, and which I realised at the time, and so when I came back around, I was quite disorientated. But I thought at first it was because of the loss of blood. So I didn't know how much time I had at that stage. But as I was calling out, then my greyhound Stan, he came up to the top of the orchard where it was, and I could hear him barking, and then it was pretty fuzzy from there. But from that point on,
he sort of alerted your wife.
Then she realised that the bike had stopped, and thought,
fly you out with the helicopter and things.
Yeah, well, we'll cut that long story short back down. But I ended up on a helicopter, and they took me to the hospital and stabilised me from there, and I spent would have been about just over 6 weeks in hospital. Then from there I come on back home and. It was quite a sort of grim outlook. I was taking a couple of different opioids as such, and there's another one as well. What do they call it? It's one that it helps for nerve pain and because you can imagine I've got all the nerves through there, and with that I was quite worried because I had a friend who actually broke her back, and I knew that she was actually looking down to damaging her kidneys and so forth from
the drugs,
from taking the drugs, and I knew that she'd gone to using the medicinal CBD.
Oh, that's where you got the CBD.
Yeah, so I end up doing the inquiries on that because I didn't want to be living on, and I got to the stage where I felt like I was living on.
Yeah, addicted to them almost.
Yeah, I was. It was almost like a time thing. I knew at a certain time that I got to take.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, it was my head thing or anything, but it would all come at a time every day that I'd be wanting to take these, and so I knew it was going to be a slippery path for me. So I started using the CBD oils, and it wasn't long after that I said to the doctor, and he went to write me another script, and I said no thanks, I'm and I
So it completely took care of the same pain, did it as well as the alkaloids.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. It took a little bit of blending. I was using both for a little while there. Then I completely stopped out the endones as such, and I got away from that addiction because it was an addiction, I believe, at that stage.
Yeah,
and
very
stayed a little bit through it. They are addictive, and there's no doubt about that. And especially on a long period of time. So I stopped them completely and used my mind for that one. I kept up with the CBD and the medicinal, and the rest is history. I'm completely pain free. I don't use a walking stick or anything with my walking. I challenge anyone to a running race. And
All right. Right.
I have more movement in that leg now, twice the amount of degrees they ever expected I would have.
Yeah,
And
maybe
I
you
believe it's getting
challenged
better.
the specialist in the
I did.
in the hallway of the hospital.
I did on my last visit. I said, yeah, I did. I challenged him to a running race.
Yeah, you did.
But, yeah, so the rest is history, and it's just made an amazing change for me, taking that path
Yeah, that's fascinating.
of medicine. Yeah,
Just a couple of other things with those creative secondary income streams.
Yes.
You've even used part of your cover crop as an income stream.
Oh, we
Tell
have.
us about that.
We have. It's part of our cover crop we put in there. It's we use in amongst our 12 to 14 species, brassicas, grasses, and so forth. We also use some hemp, and which is for its nitrogen fixing,
Yeah.
and we also use sunflowers as well. So what we realised, we'd have these beautiful fields that are just a sea of yellow, and it was getting so much attention from people driving past the farm. So we thought to ourselves, we did an open day on school holidays, invited people in, and at first we invited people in and to pick flowers, and we were selling our flowers for $2 each, but we were also using that time to tell people and explain to people what we're doing with the cover crops, and it almost became like a bit of an educational thing with families and everyone coming along to the farm, and but we end up giving away some of our produce and everything to people. It's more of a kid school holiday fun thing, and but the good news is with that, we're making an average of anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 a year. Just in our sunflower sales.
Just one little income stream.
Just one little income stream. And I say, whenever I was setting up a new patch that we're using for our ginger each time, I'd say, well, that paid for all the irrigation.
Yeah.
That paid for all the irrigation in that field.
Yeah, that's handy, isn't it?
Yeah, so we just rotate around the fields now.
And there's a little regional, a little localized farm shop that you're part of. Is that right?
It is, yeah. A Three Creeks farm stall just down the road here. Which now that our Macas are back into the season, there I'm going to jump out and as in from the next couple of weeks, and they'll have all our macadamias down at that farm stall, and look, it's all commercial farming up in our street here, and I could proudly say there's some other people which actually started that little enterprise as such, and they do a fantastic job with that. And it's all the local produce within this Three Creeks of the Murray Valley.
Well, I've had some experience with your wonderful ginger, because you've been supplying some of the ginger. We make an apple and ginger juice that's tremendously popular. And the only ginger that I can sort of compare as good as mine as yours. In fact, it might even be better.
Oh, no.
So I've been using that in the juices, and it's wonderful. It's a beautiful juice.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Great ginger.
Yep.
Well, we might get out on the farm and start doing some testing now.
Sounds great.
And just doing some of these little demonstrations. So we had someone attend the last course, and they had a meeting with me afterwards, and they came from a business development perspective, and they said the one thing that's lacking on your website is that you've got to know how to do it, sort of things. And everyone now, you want to tie your shoe, you look up how to do it. You're a half-wit and don't know how to tie your shoes. But I mean, you can do anything at all, just learn it online. And I realised it was a huge oversight. So we've just been spending 2 or 3 days doing a whole series of video clips. Basically, how do you do, how do you use a refractometer, how do you take a leaf test, whatever.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, so we're going to do some on your place today.
Sounds great for me.
All right, thank you.
Let's
Thanks
go.
for your time.
Thanks, Graeme.